All right, and we are back on the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. Sorry about that, y'all. We are having some extreme technical difficulties tonight. It is going down over here in Pacific Palisades, California. But thank you so much for tuning in. We really definitely appreciate it. Everybody that's rocking with us, this is a good thing. And everybody that's been giving us feedback on the show, thank you so much. And thank you so much for all the for spreading the word and letting everybody know about it, man. We're really trying to make this, we're trying to take this to the next step. So let's get into our news of the week. Obviously this has been a week full of news. Some of it good, some of it kind of disturbing. So I mean, it's gonna kind of be hard to kind of get to everything, but I think these are some of the bigger stories that are going to actually, not bigger stories, some of them are kind of just whatever stories, but these are stories that take an impact. This is according to the New York Times. It says that Trump signs a law taking aim at Planned Parenthood funding. Now, this happened earlier today, where Trump signed a legislative law to okay the defunding of Planned Parenthood. I'll kind of read it here. President Trump signed legislation on Thursday aimed at cutting off federal funding to Planned Parenthood and other groups that perform abortions, a move cheered by conservatives who have clamored to impose curbs on reproductive rights. And the article goes on to read, the previous Department of Health and Human Services regulation, which took 2 days before Mr. Trump's inauguration, said that states and localities cannot withhold money from a provider for any reason other than the inability to provide family planning services. This is kind of a thing that conservatives are really rallying behind. They're not in favor of Planned Parenthood. And this is something that Donald Trump was campaigning on. Now, don't get me wrong. He's been flip-flopping all week on stuff. 1 minute he doesn't know Putin, or him and Putin are really cool. The next minute he's never heard of them. You heard what happened with the Chinese. They're manipulating their currency, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But one of the campaign promises he's keeping, besides he wanted to bomb the hell out of ISIS, which I guess he did, or I'm gonna bomb the shit out of him, right? That's what he said, right? I guess he kept that promise. I mean, he didn't kill all of them, but I guess he bombed a few of them. To defund Planned Parenthood is something that the conservatives have been trying to push for, or the Republican Party, more specifically, has been trying to push for a very long time. So, I guess now today they got their wish, and I think this, in my own personal opinion, I think this is really a cheap shot. It's kind of a cheap move. Planned Parenthood does a lot more than help women get abortions. They really do a lot for, mammograms and things like that. I'm not a woman, so I really don't know all the specifics, but I do know that it really helps a lot of women out. So I think this is kind of something that, but the Republicans, this is kind of their thing when it comes to where our tax dollars should go. They really shouldn't go to helping. They feel like helping somebody who can't help themselves. And so that's pretty much really kind of what they run on. But I don't know. I'll leave that up for you to decide. Of course, I'm going to put these up on MikeRileyNow.com so that way you guys can take a look at them. And I know I say that every week, and I really never, ever do that. But I promise that'll happen tonight. I swear to God, I'm going to put them up on MikeRileyNow.com. All right. Let's get into the next story here. It says nearly $1 billion in side deals were generated in order to pass Jerry Brown's gas tax law. So for those of you who live in California, our governor, Jerry Brown, has signed a law into legislation that's going to raise our gas tax about 12 cents a gallon. And it's also going to raise the cost of the price of what it costs to drive a car. Now, in my personal opinion, and the money that's supposed to be collected from this is supposed to be going towards building our crumbled roads. It's supposed to be building our crumbled bridges. And it's supposed to also be going towards getting us infrastructure so people don't necessarily have to drive anymore. Now, I have a conspiracy theory that states that Jerry Brown wants people to stop driving. He's not a big fan of people driving. I think he wants to move towards more public transportation. And so he's trying to suppress people from driving by raising prices on things, especially our gas. But there was a lot of things that happened. This is according to the LA Times. It says, in one of the biggest legislative victories of his storied political career, Governor Jerry Brown pushed through oh, sorry. I just got an advertisement popped up on me about Kobe Bryant. Uh, Governor Jerry Brown pushed through an ambitious plan last week that will increase gas taxes and vehicle fees to raise $52 billion over the next decade to repair Californians' crumbling roads and bridges. But the win didn't come cheaply. Brown and legislative dealers promised nearly $1 billion for the pet projects of lawmakers who had been sitting on the fence before they were persuaded to vote for the bill. So, Jerry Brown, our governor, I guess, according to the LA Times, I guess basically made promises to a lot of California legislators that if you vote yes on this bill, we'll fund your side projects or whatever else the case. It sounds like that's what went on. This is why a lot of people hate politics, and I hate politicians. Now, I'm not the kind of person who makes perfect the evil of good. I really don't believe in that. So I mean, and who knows what their pet projects are, and who knows, but and where the money comes from. But at the end of the day, it's a good thing that I personally think that Jerry Brown wants to help repair our roads and bridges, and this is the way you got to do it. And it's funny because California has a really, really high population, so I wonder how much this is going to affect, how much money this is actually going to bring in. And with our pot legalization coming up too, that should really help, kick the economy up a little bit. So anyway, that's an interesting story too. This next story I think is kind of interesting. A Kentucky coal museum is now running on solar power. So there's this coal museum in Kentucky, right? And one of the biggest arguments on the right against the whole global warming, climate change agenda, against doing anything about it, is it's going to destroy the coal industry, right? So, and a lot of people in a lot of the southern states, like West Virginia and places like that, and they depend on coal. That's all they know how to do. They know how to go down in those mines and shovel coal out. And we all know that coal is like what makes the wheels turn. So, but coal's a dirty, dirty, dirty ass energy source. It burns dirty. It gets up in the air, and it pretty much fucks up the environment. So we're trying to move further away from coal. Most countries have already started doing this. They've already started moving towards more natural forms of energy like wind, solar, and more natural gas. But we in the United States are stuck on coal. But and for that reason, a lot of conservatives don't want to push towards laws that would curb the coal industry. And I don't mean just mining coal. I mean the entire industry, right? So there's this coal museum, ironically enough, that's down in Kentucky that happens because it wants to save money. It's now running on solar power. The article goes on to read, and this is from a website, WBKR 92.5, the country station, I think is, and it's an article by Aaron Grant. It says, wait a minute, isn't coal, or at least coal jobs, supposed to be coming back to Kentucky? While that question is still up in the air, the history of our coal mining industry has taken a page from the modern way of doing things. The Kentucky Coal Museum, located in Harlan County, has installed solar powers as a means of saving money. Ironic, isn't it? So the irony in that, I think, is absolutely hilarious. And, honestly, it just goes to show you that coal, in my personal opinion, belongs in a museum anyway. Coal, it's a fading industry. I think a lot of people are kind of holding on to it like we're like people who hold on to VCRs. So, I think it's time we give up on the coal game. All right, let's try to squeeze one more in before the break. This one's a little bit of a crazy one too, and this is according to National Geographic. It says that eating dogs has been banned in Taiwan. This is a first for Asia. It says killing, selling, and consuming dogs and cats is now illegal in Taiwan. In a landmark step for animal welfare, Taiwan has outlawed the consumption of dog and cat meat, the first country in Asia to do so. Anyone who buys or eats the meat can be fined up to $82,000 or $8,200. Back in 1998, Taiwan made it illegal to slaughter dogs and cats and sell their meat. but underground commercial market persisted. Now, yeah, I mean, I'm happy this happened. You know, I love dogs and cats, but I used to have this argument with like a lot of my friends who are vegan, and they say, well, if you can eat a chicken, what justifies you eating anything else? Like, what makes a chicken's life more precious than like a dog or a cat's life? I don't really know. But anyway, I guess that's up to you. I mean, I'll never stop eating chicken, so I don't know what to say about that. But I think it's kind of crazy. All right, y'all, we'll be right back. It's the Mike Riley Now podcast, Young Angel American Network.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.
Yeah, man. me and Brooke are over here talking about how happy we are to hear about the dog and the cats thing. Yeah, because we're glad they're not doing that in Taiwan anymore. All right, welcome back to the Mike Riley Now podcast. Thank you so much, everybody who's been riding with me the whole time. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. Everybody who's checking me out on Facebook Live, what's up? Make sure you log on to MikeRileyNow.com and make sure you follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on all of the social medias, and make sure you say what's up to me too. If you're on Twitter, shout me out, say what's up to my Instagram, whatever. Hit me up on Facebook, I'll answer you back. All right, let's get into economics a little bit. Now, a lot of things happened economically this week. The economy is starting to shift. Things are starting to go in different directions. Earlier this week, when Donald Trump met with the Chinese president, with the president of China, Mr. Xi, it seems like he flip-flopped on something. And when Donald Trump was campaigning all through the 2016, he was a big fan of talking shit on China for manipulating their currency. Now, China has been doing this. China did manipulate their currency. See, what these people do is they can devalue their currency if they make their own currency. And when they devalue their currency, it kind of drives down the cost of their exports and drives up the cost of their imports. So they end up kind of making a lot more money on the back end. China was doing this, and it was really kind of killing us, but they haven't done this for about 2 or 3 years. And Donald Trump was really hitting hard on this in the campaign. And then yesterday he came out and said, China doesn't manipulate their currency. I take that back. So that is something that's very interesting. And I think that's interesting. And he was going somewhere with the strength of the dollar. And I don't know where the hell he was going with the strength of the dollar thing, but it was definitely a flip-flop. And I wonder if he's going to impose that import tax that he was talking about. He wanted to raise the tariffs in order to save American industry, but we don't know it. But now he's cool with China all of a sudden, so we're gonna have to investigate that a little bit. I really don't know. And then another kind of crazy thing that happened. There was a change in Obamacare that took place that Trump just signed into law as well. I really don't know what it entails. We'll try to get into it a little bit later on in like another segment. But I guess what happens is they're going to get rid of the subsidies for Obamacare. And what that's going to do is it's going to probably make it harder for people to sign up because the insurance companies will be able to kind of have a little bit more of their own kind of say-so in things. So we'll talk about that more in like another segment in another time because I really don't know much about it. But we'll have to figure that out, and when I get some more information on it, we'll definitely have a show on it. Okay, so a big thing happened this week. So if everybody saw what happened with the United Airlines thing, right? Like this dude paid for this seat, and this guy from Vietnam, he was a doctor or surgeon. Now Jimmy Kimmel brought up a really good point about this, where he said, I don't know why airlines always oversell their seats. And they always do this shit. They really do. I guess the reason why is because some people don't show up and they have to give that seat to someone. But, I really don't know. It's kind of a thing that I guess just airlines do. I don't work in the airline industry, so I couldn't tell you what the point of that is. But they overbooked this flight, and they needed to have some of their employees fly to, I guess it was St. Louis or something like that, from Chicago. So everybody knows the story. So basically, they called the aviation police who work for the city of Chicago. They came in, roughed this dude up, and dragged him out off the plane. And I guess they broke his nose and broke some teeth out, and all kinds of funny stuff. Or not funny stuff, but crazy stuff, excuse me, not funny. It's just funny in the sense that I can't believe that shit happened. Like, I really can't believe that happened. Yo, that was fucked up. You can't, that is crazy. Like, that's a paying customer. For them to drag this man off the plane like that, you know, I got to speak my piece on that. That was a horrible thing for them to do. But I guess apparently airlines, and, you know, and who's to say, you know, what happened? That lady could have just simply walked up to the airline or aviation police or whatever and said, yo, this guy just refuses to get off the plane. He wasn't acting belligerent. He wasn't doing anything like that. And that's all the police have to hear. And then they can just go in there and you know, and grab whoever they want and just pull them out. So that was a crazy situation. But I say that to say, what is the kind of the nature of that, in the sense of how our economy, or I guess capitalism, kind of works, right? Why should a corporation or a company be allowed to do something like that? Now, people have a thing against, I guess, regulations. Most current or most conservatives, Republicans, argue against regulations, and some of it for good reason. But other times, a lot of it has to do with getting rid of a lot of what I would consider consumer protections, right? Consumer protections are something that is put in place, well, obviously to protect the consumer, but it also kind of leaves a way for us to fight back against the big corporations who kind of have a stronghold on things. Now, let's be honest here. Just like the police shootings these days, had nobody filmed what was going on in that flight, we would have probably never heard about it. I hear people get thrown off flights like that all the time. So, does it take something like this in order to enact consumer protections in the right way, where we have a voice to fight back with? Now, as far as airlines are concerned, back in 1978, I think it was, there was what was called the Airline Deregulation Act. And because there used to be a time when the government controlled the airlines as a public utility. And the government was the one who, you know, laid down the prices, and they did this, that, and the third. Now, airports are still ran by governments, but airlines are now private. And this deregulation of the airline industry that happened in 1978, it was actually led by some Democrats. It was led by Ted Kennedy, and Jimmy Carter was the one who signed it into law. And basically what it did, it had pros and cons to it. Because basically what it did was it lowered airline prices. Because before, to get from like New York to LA would cost you like the equivalent of like $1,200 today. And now if you're lucky, you can catch a flight for like $350. But, or even less than that, $250 in some cases. There used to be Skybus. You can fly out there for like $5. You just had to go through 25 layovers. But you wouldn't get there for another 3 days, but you got there. But but in 1978, they deregulated that industry, and they handed it over to the private industry, and it pretty much started this kind of what always happens in capitalism when things get deregulated. It started the monopoly system of the airline industry, right? Now you only have like 5 or 6 airlines to really choose from. A couple ones will try to come out and compete, but they really can't in a capitalist society, because capitalism, the whole structure behind capitalism, is to choke out competition. It's not to encourage competition, it's to choke it out. So that way there's not much competition left. And that's what happened in the airline industry. Now, granted, United Airlines is going to get their pants probably sued off by this guy. And it's funny too, because once you sign those contracts with airlines, you know, once you sign those contracts with airlines, there's like a little clause in that contract that says that you can't sue the airline for shit like this. Like you can't sue them, but I don't think that's gonna stand in this particular situation. I think that the dude's really he's gonna make out nice with what's going on with United Airlines here. But at the end of the day, and their stock's gonna take a hit too, but they're not gonna really get hit that bad, right? I mean, they'll recover from this. This isn't gonna kill them that much. So I asked that to ask all of my people out there in Facebook land and all my people out there in podcast land, love you. What do you feel about consumer protection? And this doesn't go for the airline industry. This is like practically every industry. What happens when our consumer protections are being taken away and these big corporations have so much power that they just become too big to fail? You know, it's really a big question to be asked. So. And it's funny too because I'm watching on Facebook Live right now. The Chicago PD is getting involved in the lawsuit as well, and the reason why is because their police were the ones who apprehended this person. Oh, we have a call. Well, this is the first. Okay, hold on, real quick. Let me pick it up. Hello, welcome to the Mike Riley Now podcast. Who's this?
Hello.
Hi. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Matt. I'm calling from Los Angeles. How's it going?
Oh, what's up, Matt? I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself? We have a
right.
caller on the line, everybody who can't hear from Facebook Live. Matt, thanks for joining the discussion tonight. Did you have a question?
No, I was just calling to listen. I was just thinking about these too big to fail things you're talking about, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, and appreciate what you're doing.
Oh man, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for the positive feedback. Yeah, it's kind of a trip about like we were talking about like these how these big corporations do and how they become too big to fail. When are the consumers going to be able to take their be able to take it back? So yeah. But thanks so much for the call, Matt. Do you want to say anything else?
No, just keep on going. Thank you.
Man, thanks a lot, Matt. You got it. Cheers. Thanks. Wow, so that was officially our first caller. Hey, that's awesome. All right, I told you that would happen sooner or later. But anyway, yeah, thanks, Matt, for calling in. And everybody else, feel free to call in, too. The number is 310-910-9113. You can call into the show, and you can ask a question or join the discussion. But anyway, so, yeah, to kind of get back to what I was talking about, what weapons do the little guy have against these big corporations at this point? Is it that all we have is our cell phones now? Is this what we have now? Just we have to just record them doing what they're doing? That also asks another question. Labor unions is something I really wanted to kind of get into because labor unions are kind of on the other side of consumer protections, right? For those of you who work, I mean, unions are starting to become more so a thing of the past because a lot of the jobs that are filling the economy in the United States today are service jobs, right? And service jobs, for the most part, usually don't have a union, and you don't really have a system of organized labor. And there are a lot of states in the United States which are known as right-to-work states. And right-to-work states are, the name is very, very deceiving. It doesn't mean that you have a right to have a job. It means that you have a right to have a job and you don't have to join the union if it's unionized. Because a lot of jobs, if you join the job, they won't hire you unless you join the union. And if you join the union, you got to pay your union dues. You got to, vote in meetings and blah, 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 blah. But that's because the union is what the workers have to protect them from the big-ass corporation. Because before unions came around, the big-ass corporations would treat their employees like crap, right? You can't treat people like this. You can't make us work long hours. You can't have children over here working. If I cut my hand off in your factory, you can't just kick me out on the street and just hire some other person. You can't pay me whatever the hell you feel like paying me. If it's under a livable wage. So unions were started in order to give consumers give workers a way to fight against the big corporations. The same way consumer protections were started, aka regulations, was a way for the little guy, for the people like us, to fight against the big corporations, because big corporations have a lot of fucking power in this country. More than they probably should. They have so much power to the point where they can buy politicians and sway legislation. They have so much power to the point where, you know, they're going to be sponsoring countries pretty soon. This is going to be Pepsi presents the United States of America. I say Pepsi because of that Kendall Jenner commercial. I don't know why everybody hated on that commercial. I thought it was cool. Pepsi's a little tone deaf, but that's not Pepsi's fault. They just don't have an ear to the streets. But but you know, what else do we have besides labor unions, regulations, and government to fight against the big corporations? I'm not trying to say it's an us versus them thing, and I'm not bad-mouthing business. I think that, you know, everybody should have, you know, a means if they want to start a business to do it. But when you have a system that chokes out the competition so much, kicks you down as you're trying to get up, doesn't protect you as a consumer, doesn't even care to, doesn't protect you as a worker, doesn't want you working union, then how is it that you're supposed to thrive in a situation like that? How can you start a successful anything? So that's pretty much my little rant on that. And you know, I really do think that incident on United Airlines is a good wake up call for how regulations should really be in there. So anyway, all right, y'all. Well, that is our show for tonight. I want to thank every last single one of you for listening in. I want to thank all of you for joining in. Thank Matt for calling in. God bless you, brother. God bless Charlie. God bless Brooke. God bless Cam. God bless everybody who's listening. Facebook Live all over the world. Yeah, I got listeners from all over the world, y'all. We want to thank you so much for joining in. Get that Kendrick Lamar album that's coming out at midnight tonight. It's going to be pretty dope. And always remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. That's quoted from my man Tom Hartman. We are all in this together. We have to pull together in order to make it work. If you live in Georgia, or if you know somebody who lives in Georgia, tell them to get their ass out and vote this Tuesday in that special election. We need their voices to be heard. All right, y'all. God bless every single last one of you. We will see you next week. Hopefully no technical difficulties. Cheers.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.